Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you guys are doing great. So in this video, we are going to talk about the fifth section of algebra, that is the factor theorem. So let's get started. Let's start our discussion with the basic definition or the formal definition of the factor theorem, and then we will discuss more contents and more examples about it. So it says if f of x is a polynomial and if f of a is equal to 0, then the remainder when f of x is divided by x minus a is 0. Now the red part is basically what we already study in the remainder theorem. If f of a is 0, then it would imply that x minus a would give you 0 as the remainder where it would be divided by the function. This is what we know through the remainder theorem. Thus, x minus a is a factor of f of x. This is what we know now. Since the remainder is 0, it means that x minus a is going to be the factor of f of x. Okay. The next part of the theorem says if f b by a, like if f of b by a gives you 0, now this time around we are plugging in this. So it would give you 0. Then it would mean that ax minus b is a factor of f of x. So according to the factor theorem, if we are plugging in a in x, or if we are plugging b by a, and if the function gives you 0, this would imply that it is a factor, because obviously that 0 is the remainder, and if we are getting 0 as the remainder, that thing is obviously a factor. Okay, so this is what we know through the formal definition. Let's talk about some examples and then things would get clear. All right. Example number 1. P of x is x cubed minus ax squared plus 2x plus 8, where a is a constant. It is given that x minus 2 is a factor. So first part of the question says find a. Okay, now we have a polynomial and we know that x minus 2 is a factor. So using the factor theorem, I can say since x minus 2 is a factor, this implies that P of 2, because the polynomial is P now, P of 2 would be equal to 0. This is what I know from the factor theorem. X minus 2 is a factor, so P of 2 would be 0. Now, I will be using this, okay? So since P of 2 would be 0, I can just plug in 2 in P to see the value. 2 cubed minus a into 2 squared plus 2 into 2 plus 8. And it would give me 8 minus 4a plus 4 plus 8 equals 0. And this would give me 20 minus 4a equals 0. And it would give me 20 equals 4a. And this would give you a equals 5. So this is going to be the answer. Again, We had some information in the question, and using that information, I made up this condition right here. And using this condition, I was able to get an equation where A was the only unknown. So the only process was to make A the subject, and after making A the subject, I got A equals 5. So this was the very first part of the first example. Okay, let's talk about the second part of this question. Now, the second part of this question says, when A has this value, factorize P of X completely. So using the value of A that we got, that is A equals 5, we need to factorize P of X completely. Now P of X would be X cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8. This is P of X, and I've used A equals 5 in P of X, okay? I need to factorize it. So one of the factors is X minus 2. Now using this, I will find the other factors. So you have multiple ways here. First method is you can plug in a variety of numbers from -3 to +3. You can try plugging in these 7 options in X and see if you get 0 as the value of polynomial. But this obviously would be more time taking, but this is the correct method. You can do this as well. You can do it by hit and trial method. If you don't want to do it like this, you can directly just divide X minus 2 and you would get a quadratic factor, and then you can just factorize the quadratic factor. So let's try doing it that way, because hit and trial method is good. You can do this one as well, but let's talk about the method that would give you the answer certainly. All right, so it is X cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8, and the factor is X minus 2. I need X cubed here, so I will plug in X square here. I would get X cubed minus 2x squared then I'll take the difference. These two would be cancelled and I would get minus 5x squared plus 2x squared. So it would give me 3x squared, okay? And then I can just write these two directly. It's 2x and then it's plus 8. Next, I want minus 3x squared here. So I need to write down minus 3x here. So it would give me minus 3x squared plus 6x, and again I will be writing down the difference. So these two would be cancelled and I would get minus 4x plus 8, and again I need to write down -4, and it would give me negative 4x plus 8, and now when I will find the difference, this would give me 0. So this is the first factor and here is the quadratic factor which I need to factorize further, okay? So I got P of X as X minus 2 and it would be multiplied by x squared minus 3x minus 4. Now I need to factorize this quadratic part as well, because the question was about factorizing p of x completely. So for this, I can just, think about this part. It's x squared minus 3x minus 4. I need two numbers such that when I multiply them, I get minus 4. Or when I add them, I get minus 3x. So the numbers would be x squared positive x minus 4x minus 4. I can take x common and it would give me x plus 1. I can take minus 4 common, that would give me x plus 1. And I would get x minus 4 and x plus 1. So finally, I can write it as, so p of x can be factorized this way. It's x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 4 multiplied by x plus 1. This is going to be the answer for the first question. So here it was simple. You were asked to evaluate A for the first part. We just use the factor theorem. Factor theorem says if something is a factor, so let's say if x minus 2 is a factor, when you will plug in x equals 2 in the function, it should give you 0. This is what factor theorem says. That is it. Using the factor theorem, we did the first part, and using the division of polynomials, we discussed the second part of the question. All right, okay. Let's talk about the next question. Okay, now it says solve x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12 equals 0. This is the question, okay? Now, students, for this question, you need to factorize it completely. And once it's factorized, we would be just writing it down that we would be having 3 factors. So all these 3 factors would be equal to 0, and we would be able to find the value of x. But how do we factorize it? For the last example, we had one linear factor already. So we were able to just do it by long division. But this time around, I don't even have one factor, okay? So in order to understand it, just think about it as if it is a polynomial. It's p of x, and p of x is equal to x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. Now, if a number is a factor, for example, if x minus 1 is a factor, I need to plug in x equals 1 in all the x's or in p of x to see if we get 0 or not, okay? So this would basically be done by hit and trial method. We need to find the first factor this way. So trial number 1. We say that x minus 1 can be a factor, and this would mean we need to check x equals 1. So p of 1 would give you 1 cubed minus 3 into 1 squared minus 4 into 1 plus 12. It's 1 minus 3 minus 4 plus 12. And it certainly does not give you 0. So this trial is wasted. Let's try x minus 2. Trial number 2. Assuming that x minus 2 would be a factor, would mean we need to plug in x equals 2. And when we will plug in x equals 2, This would give you 2 cubed minus 3 into 2 squared minus 4 into 2 plus 12. So it would give you 8 minus 3 into 4 minus 8 plus 12. 8 minus 12 minus 8 plus 12. So 8 and minus 8 are cancelled, minus 12 and 12 are cancelled, and this would give you 0. If P of 2 is giving you 0, this certainly means x minus 2 is a factor. Now, once we have one factor, for the other two factors, what you can do is either you can just, plug in random numbers like -1, -2, 2, 0, stuff like that, or you can just do it by log division. So we have already discussed log division. Let's try doing it through some other method. Okay, so this is the first factor. We already got the first factor. Then trial number 4. You don't need to write it down this way. It's just my way of explaining. Now we can say x minus 2 was a factor. So let's see if x plus 2 is a factor or not. If x plus 2 would be a factor, then we will be using x equals minus 2. So let's check for p of minus 2. Minus 2 cubed, minus 3 into minus 2 squared, minus 4 into minus 2 plus 12. It would give you minus 8, minus 3 into 4 plus 8 and plus 12, minus 8, minus 12 plus 8 plus 12. And again, we are getting the same thing. This is equal to 0. And again, this means that x plus 2 is a factor. Now we are just left with one last factor. So again, we'll do that through the same method. Trial number 4. This time around, we can use, we were done with 1, 2, minus 2. Let's check for 3. So if x minus 3 would be a factor, this would mean x equals 3 would give you 0. So P of 3 would give you 3 cubed minus 3 into 3 squared minus 4 into 3 plus 12. So this would be, these two would be cancelled and we would get minus 12 plus 12. And again, these two are cancelled and it would give you 0. If this is giving you 0, this means that x minus 3 is a factor. So we are not done yet. The question was about solving it. Now we know that P of x can be written as x minus 2, x plus 2, and x minus 3. And the equation was P of x equals 0. This means we need to solve x minus 2, x plus 2, and x minus 3 equals 0. And when we will solve it, we will get x minus 2 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. So this would give you x equals 2, x equals minus 2, and x equals 3. So this is going to be the answer for the second example. All right, now for the second example, the question was not about, finding the factors, stuff like that. The question was about this one. We had to solve this cubic equation, and for that we had to factorize it. And in order to factorize it, we need at least one linear factor just so we can find the quadratic one, but we did not have any factor initially. So we used the hit and trial method for finding out the first factor, and that was x equals 1. When we plugged in x equals 1 in P, we got 0. We did not get 0, so this means x minus 1 was not a factor. Then we tried again and we plugged in x equals 2, and that gave us 0, which implied x minus 2 would be a factor. Then we checked for x equals minus 2, that gave us 0, which meant that x plus 2 would be a factor. And finally, x equals 3 also gave us 0, which meant that x minus 3 would also be a factor. So we can only have 3 factors. All these 3 factors are equal to 0. And after simplifying, I got x equals 2, minus 2, and 3. So this was the answer. All right, okay, let's talk about another question. And it says, it's basically a past paper question. I'm just writing down the keywords. A polynomial p of x is basically equal to ax cubed plus x squared plus b of x plus 6, where a and b are constants. It is denoted by p of x. We have done that. It is given that 2x minus 1 is a factor, and when we are dividing it by x minus 1, we get minus 4 as remainder. So what is the question? The question says, find a and b. All right, this is our polynomial for this question. Here is a and here is b. We have two conditions, that 2x minus 1 is a factor, and that x minus and that when we divide the polynomial by x minus 1, we get minus 4 as the remainder. So we will use these two conditions to make two equations, and once we have two equations, we know how to solve them to find the values of a and b. All right, so let's talk about the solution. Okay. It's the first condition and it's the second condition. Using the first condition, we know that two x minus 1 equals 0 would give x equals 1 by 2. Using the first condition, we know that 2x minus 1 equals 0 implies x equals 2. So basically, p of 1 by 2 should give you 0. So let's just use this condition and it would give us p of 1 by 2, that is basically a divided by 2 cubed plus 1 by 2 squared plus b by 2 plus 6, and this thing is equal to 0. So let me just simplify this and we are going to get a by 8 plus 1 by 4 plus b by 2 plus 6 equals 0. And we can just take 8 as the LCM. It would give you a plus 2 plus 4b plus 48 equals 0. And we can just take this 8 on the other side, would get 0, and this would give you a plus 4b equals minus 50. So this is basically equation number 1. Okay. Now we will use the other condition. The other condition was when x minus 1 is divided, we get minus 4 as the remainder. So now I will use the remainder theorem. So I can write it down this way. Using the second condition, x minus 1 would mean x equals 1, and p of 1 would give you minus 4, because that was basically the remainder. So what is p of 1? P of 1 is going to be, this is p, so it would be a plus 1 plus b plus 6. And this thing is equal to minus 4. And after simplification, we would get a plus b equals minus 11. All right, this is the second equation. Now we need to use these two equations in order to simplify it. So A and A are same. We can just use the elimination method. 1 minus 2 would give A plus 4b minus A plus b equals minus 50, and then minus 11. So A and A would be cancelled, and it would give you 3b equals minus 50 plus 11, and 3b equals minus 39. So this would give you b equals minus 13. Now we have b equals minus 13. So b equals minus 13, and a plus b is minus 11. So we can just do it this way. It would give you a minus 13 equals minus 11. And now we can just take this 13 to the other side, and it would give you a equals 13 minus 11. That is a equals 2. So finally, the question was about finding the values of a and b, and we got a equals minus 13 and a equals 2. So for this question, we have used the remainder theorem and we have used the factor theorem. The factor theorem says that when you will plug in x equals 1 by 2, you would get 0. So we use this as the condition. And after simplifying, I got this equation, and it gave me a plus 4b equals minus 50. And using the second condition, that when we will divide the polynomial by x minus 1, minus 4 would be the remainder. And that gave me this equation. Now by subtracting both the equations, that was basically the elimination method, I got the value of b as minus 13 and a as 2, and this was basically the answer. So I hope that you guys were able to understand everything. In case of any queries, any difficulties, feel free to contact me using the link in description. Or if you're interested in live classes where we are covering the entire syllabus online through Zoom, you can just again use the link in description to get yourselves enrolled for the live session. So that is it for today. Then I will see you next time. Take care, all of you, and Allah Hafiz.